Well, I got another video project here, another how-to video on my 2007 GMC Sierra. I'm going to be doing a front brake job. Now I'm going to be putting on new rotors and new pads, and those are right over here. And then I'm also going to be doing a rear brake job, but I'll put that into a separate video. So for this one, we're just doing the front. Now the trucks, the GMT 900 trucks, so that's 2007 to 2014 GM trucks. So it doesn't matter if it's GMC, Chevrolet, if it's a Tahoe, or if it's a Suburban, or if it's a pickup. They're very, very similar. However, they don't all have the exact same braking package on them. My truck has drum brakes in the rear, and obviously, as all vehicles do, have disc brakes in the front. So the parts are just slightly different. You need to make sure, you need to check, you need to know if you have rear drum brakes or if you have rear disc brakes. If you got a Tahoe or Suburban, I think all of them have rear disc brakes. If you got a pickup, it could be either or. So just double check the braking package that you have, and make sure you get the right parts. But the procedure for doing this is pretty much the same regardless of the vehicle. So you're looking at the back side of the caliper right now. There's two bolts that we need to remove to get the caliper removed from the caliper bracket. There's one up here at the top, and then there's another one right here at the bottom. Now I found that a 3/4 inch socket or wrench, whatever you want to use, is the best way to get these out. So some of these fasteners are metric. So with the bolts removed, I'm just going to come in here, slide the caliper off, and I'm just going to place it. We don't want it to hang from the brake line itself, the rubber brake line. So I'm just going to set it inside the lower control arm right there and just let it sit there. So now with the caliper out of the way, the brake pads, you just pull them straight out to the side. Now I'm going to show you something here in a minute that is a complete fail on my part. This pad still has plenty of material left on it. The one on the inside is in really bad shape. There is no braking material at all left on that pad. And then when I get the rotor off, I'll show you the inside of this. Now I thought that the noise that I was hearing and the feeling that I could feel in the steering wheel and in the brakes was coming from the driver's side of the truck. This is the passenger side. I might have a surprise for me left on the driver's side, I don't know. But clearly I had a major problem here on the passenger side of the truck. So let's get this caliper bracket off, and then we'll get the rotor off. Now the caliper bracket is held onto the spindle with two bolts. There's one right here, and then there's another one right here. Now I found that an 18mm wrench or socket is the best tool to get these off. These, you know, the caliper bolts, best tool was 3/4. So I'm not sure why it goes back and forth between metric and standard, but it seems to do that. So 18mm to get these two bolts out of here for the caliper bracket. Now these bolts do have thread locking compound on them, so they're going to be kind of tricky, and you're going to have to use some persuasion to get them out of there. One thing else I'd like to note, you see all that shiny stuff? That's ground up metal. That's from the pad, or the lack of the pad, grinding on the rotor. So like I said, you're going to need a little bit of persuasion to get these caliper bracket bolts removed. So I'm not going to go through every step of reassembly because it's the exact opposite of disassembly. But right here I'm going to show you, this is the bolt that held the caliper bracket to the spindle. Now you can see that yellow stuff on there, that's thread locking compound. So we need to put thread locking compound back on this bolt when we reinstall it. And so some people in my other videos posted questions about what I'm using. This is just Permatex high strength thread locking compound, Loctite. If you want to use that, it's kind of the same thing, but I do kind of recommend using the high strength, not the removable or anything like that. So we're just going to put a generous coating of thread locker on both of these bolts, and then we'll just reinstall our mounting bracket. Let's see if I can get this in position where you can see it, but you can see how far the pistons have pushed out of their little barrels. Now, when we go to put our new pads on here, we're not going to be able to get the caliper on because there's not enough space in between the outer side here and the piston. So we got to compress the pistons. Now, if you just compress one at a time, what's going to happen is you press this one in, this one's going to pop out, or vice versa. So we have to compress both the pistons at the same time. Now, there's nothing fancy here. What I'm using, just because it's what I had around, I got 4 little strips of 1/8 inch aluminum. They're about 1 inch wide by 6 inches long. So we're just going to put those up against both pistons, and then using a simple C-clamp, we're going to compress the pistons. So I'll show you real quick. The pistons have been compressed back into their bores. So now we're ready to put the pads on, put our little retainers in place, and then we'll put the caliper back on. So the pads look a little bit different. This pad that has this little bit of metal sticking out the bottom, you can see that this pad is just curved. This piece with the piece of straight metal going across the bottom, that goes on the inside of the rotor. And then this piece that's just curved on both sides goes on the outside. So when you're putting the caliper on, you're going to have to compress these little caliper retaining bolts a little bit to get them to line up. So now the caliper rests in place. The bracket itself holds the pads. It keeps the pads from going fore and aft, whether you're braking going forward or braking going in reverse. It holds the pads itself. The caliper only provides a clamping force on the pads. So we got the bolts. You do not put any thread locking compound on these bolts. Now the brake parts are completely reassembled, but there's a couple things that I want to do just because I have access, and one of them is the tie rod end here and the grease zerk. So I'm going to put, since I got it off, it's just so much easier right now to go ahead and grease these than it is to go and take the wheel off again. So I'm going to pump a little bit of grease into the tie rod ends so that little part is done. Well, I got the front wheels and tires back on the truck. I finished the brake job on the front. I just got back from cruising around the neighborhood, just put a few miles on the new brakes, listening for anything that doesn't sound quite right. Just testing the feel of the brakes, making sure everything is as it needs to be, and it is that and more. They are better. So front brakes on this truck are finished up. Now I just got to pull the rear wheels and tires off the back, tackle those drum brakes, and I'll annotate a link to those videos here in this video. So I appreciate y'all watching.